Hi, I'm Janie.
And I'm Maggie.
And this is Facts and Frivolities.
We have had technical difficulties.
All day.
It's just been a day like that.
The universe might be telling us not to record this episode.
It for sure is.
But we really want to.
We're gonna persevere. You know what this is? This is Weston Womp winning.
He's in a cult. Our mayor's in a cult.
Yeah. Our mayor is not only in a cult, but his cult passed out pre-filled ballots filled out for all of the Republican candidates. And they are a 501c3 nonprofit. They are a church. They are not allowed to do that, but no one gives a fuck.
And they still don't pay taxes. We have to take our mind off of the fact that Election Day was yesterday in Tennessee. So instead, we're going to transport ourselves back to the 1800s.
We have to go cast our minds back to when it was worse. We were talking about Agatha Christie because we were talking about the Agatha Christie episode. And then I think we were talking about other, detective writers.
Because I thought it was so funny that Arthur Conan Doyle and Harry Houdini were like buds on alternate sides of the spectrum. And I had never heard that before. Maggie introduced that fact to me.
Yeah, that Arthur Conan Doyle was really into spiritualism and Harry Houdini was not. So we decided to do a paired episode. So Janie is doing Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yes.
And then I'm going to talk about Harry Houdini. And then we're going to talk together about their weird friendship /
frenemy.
Yeah, turned into full-blown feud.
And I hate your wife.
Right.
So I'm going to start with Arthur Conan Doyle. He was born May 22nd, 1859 in Edinburgh. So he's Scottish. His full name, because he was knighted in 1902. So his full name is Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle.
It's a lot of name.
It's a lot of name.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad name.
I went to Loyola University, and Loyola is a Jesuit university, and our the guy that started it was Saint Ignatius. And so we called him Iggy, and we had a statue.
That's why he has that name.
It's a saint name.
He was raised Catholic. It's the same reason Cody has 3 middle names.
Yeah. That makes sense.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was raised Catholic. Even though he was raised Catholic, he did say that he was agnostic. Arthur Conan Doyle is obviously known for writing Sherlock Holmes, but this man has done everything. Yeah. So I'm just going to go through a list real quick of top accomplishments and hobbies and stuff because it is all over the place.
The best time to be born as a white man with ADHD, a rich white man with ADHD, was the Victorian period.
1000%. Yeah. He studied medicine at the University of Edinburgh Medical School. He was a doctor and a surgeon on 2 different sea voyages before he tried to establish a medical practice in Portsmouth. He was unsuccessful. He was also known for his architecture.
Sure.
He was a Freemason. He played golf, football, which I think was soccer, billiards. He skied. He judged bodybuilding competitions. He unsuccessfully stood for parliament twice. He was big in support of different political things. So one of them was compulsory vaccination. He was big on the Congo Free State and the human rights violations happening there. So he did a lot of that. And as part of that, he was knighted by King Edward VII in 1902. Between 1902 and 1907, there were 2 cases of men who he believed were wrongfully accused, but they were in jail. And he personally worked on their cases and got them acquitted.
See, because you didn't need to have a degree in anything. You could just decide one day to be a lawyer and everyone was sure.
The Court of Criminal Appeal in England was formed because of Arthur Conan Doyle.
Why not? I feel I would really thrive as a Victorian gentleman. I really would have done quite well.
No, I think so too.
Yeah.
I'm going to discuss these cases really quick just because they're interesting. One of them was a man named Adolf Beck. He was stepping out of his home and a woman came up to him and was like, "You swindled me out of $3 or something." And he was like, "No, I didn't." And she just kept walking with him and yelling at him. So he walked to the police station and was like, "This lady is accosting me." And then they arrested them both. She accused him that she had sold him 2 watches and a couple of rings, and he never gave her the money that he promised her. 9 years later, this man is accused of the same thing again by a different woman. But this time the woman didn't accuse him by name. She described him. In 1895, he is approached by a woman who accuses him of swindling her. They go to the police. They're both arrested. 9 years later, a different woman goes to the police station and reports that a man has swindled her out of selling some jewelry, and she describes him. And she happens to be explaining this to the police officer who handled the case 9 years ago.
Oh.
So the police officer who handled the case 9 years ago, 9 years later, is like, oh, this guy's doing it again, and goes and arrests him. The woman literally was like, I don't think that's the man. Like, her eyewitness testimony was like, I don't think that's him. Didn't matter. Yeah. Like they had like multiple eyewitnesses from both cases. And like a lot of people were like, yeah, that looks like him, but his voice isn't the same, or like these people were not conclusive that this was correct. But the cop decided that it was. So he was sentenced to 7 years, which he did. And then he was acquitted because they were like, oh, wait, these eyewitnesses were not correct. The other story is a man named George Ernest Thompson Adagi. I'm probably saying that wrong. He was the son of a vicar. He was of Indian descent, and this matters because he was accused of injuring a pony. There was almost no proof of this. He had also been regarded as having been responsible for different animal mutilations that had been seen across. There was like an animal serial mutilator at this time. And he was accused for it.
Okay.
The prosecution against him was prejudiced, obviously. He actually went to a indentured servitude camp, and he served 7 years of hard labor.
For injuring a pony?
Yes.
Okay.
Then Arthur Conan Doyle was on his case, made a campaign, showed that he likely did not do this and there was no proof, and that the entire case was weak and likely founded in prejudice. And he was pardoned because Arthur Conan Doyle was able to prove that the conviction that they had for him was unfounded. Continuing on his random hobbies and things that he had, in the late 1800s, he joined the British Society for Psychical Research, the SPR. And in 1894, he was one of the members on a committee that was sent to investigate a haunted house.
Funny.
I know. In his notes, he went to this haunted house and he heard creaking and things like that. And even in his notes, he was like, but it sounded like it was just the house settling. Like, it didn't sound like anything supernatural to him. Then he found out that they had buried their daughter after she died in their garden. And so he became convinced that the sounds that he heard were, in fact, a haunting. And he published his results saying yeah, this house is haunted and this is proof that spirits are real.
Yeah. He wanted to believe so bad.
He wanted so badly. And I get it.
And it's funny because he is a scientist. He is a doctor. He was a medical doctor.
Yeah.
The scientific method existed at this point. It's not not the Tudor era. We know how to think about these things. And he just at every turn he's must have been ghosts.
Ironically, in 1887, he published his first Sherlock Holmes work, A Study in Scarlet, and Sherlock Holmes is all about making it logical and making sure everything makes sense and nothing is fantastical.
Everything has a reasonable explanation.
He did say that this character was not modeled after anything to do with him.
Oh, no.
This character was modeled after a professor that he had in college. In fact, this character was so well modeled after this professor that Robert Louis Stevenson wrote Arthur Conan Doyle a letter and said, hey, is this about Professor Bell? And it was.
That's so funny. I've always seen Watson as more of the Arthur Conan Doyle stand-in, the upstanding doctor. Watson was likely named after someone that Arthur Conan Doyle knew, but they do not believe that anything else of his character was based on the person Doyle knew. Sense. So it was much more likely that Watson was based off of his personal experience. Yeah. In 1887, he did sell A Study in Scarlet for £25. That's about $3,500 today. He continued writing Sherlock Holmes for about 6 years, and then in 1893, he killed him off. He was sick of writing him. He found him really annoying. As we know, Arthur Conan Doyle was not the most logical, and he hated writing this character. It makes sense. Like, it would be so annoying to have to come up with a reasonable explanation for everything in your story.
When all you want to do is say it's ghosts.
Right. Like, you just want to go, like, rule of cool.
So in 1893, after he killed him off, people were pissed. At this time, people loved Sherlock Holmes, and it was like something they looked forward to and everything. And then he died in his book with Moriarty. They both died.
They like they get thrown off a waterfall.
People were fucking pissed, including his mother, who wrote him a letter saying like, no, you mustn't do this. You have to change your mind. You can't do this to me.
That's so funny.
If my mom supported my writing like that,
you know,
because everyone was so pissed. He waited 8 years, but 8 years later, he did bring Holmes back.
Now, I don't think I could hold out for 8 years. 8 years is a long time. I didn't realize it was that long.
It was that.
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah.
When he ended up bringing Holmes back in 1901, it finally happened because publishers kept asking him, obviously, like, we'll give you a deal to write Sherlock Holmes. And he kept saying no. Finally, instead of saying no, he said, fine, if you give me like $3,000, I'll do it. And they said, okay. He accidentally became even more rich. He is actually one of the best paid writers in history solely because he didn't want to write Sherlock Holmes.
It's so funny because you hear like contractors saying like, oh yeah, I quoted them like triple because I didn't want to do it and then I'm stuck doing this shitty job.
It's literally what happened. And he was like, fuck, now I have to. Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a lot more than just Sherlock Holmes because he was a writer and he hated Sherlock Holmes. In total, he wrote 4 Sherlock Holmes novels and 56 Sherlock Holmes short stories. But overall, he produced over 200 short stories and articles, 4 volumes of poetry, and a number of plays. He also produced a couple of novels. He especially liked historical novels. And he wrote like a surrealist novel that kind of started off the surrealism literature.
And he's still only known for Sherlock Holmes.
I know. One of his books, which was one of his favorites and also one of the first, was called The Lost World. It actually got made into a movie later. It didn't do super well, but he was thrilled. Holmes finally did end up Holmes finally did officially stop writing Arthur Conan Doyle officially stopped writing Holmes in 1927. Nope, that's not true. Arthur Conan
It's the sentence from hell. You got this.
Arthur Conan Doyle officially stopped writing anything with Sherlock Holmes in it 3 years before he died. 1924, his last Sherlock Holmes story was published, and then he died in 1927. In total, he had like 7 years of freedom or something, from his arch nemesis that he created.
You could say he was haunting him. See what I did there? Because he's into ghosts.
That's so good. Thank you. Poor man. I love writers. They're so fucking weird. So as I already mentioned, in the late 1800s, Arthur Conan Doyle got very into like spiritualism and mysticism. In 1917, 2 cousins produced photos with fairies. There was a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they had cut out paper fairies, and they did a photo shoot with them. Arthur Conan Doyle saw these and was like, well, this is absolute proof that fairies are real.
These are called the Cottingley fairies, and you can look up photos and judge for yourself.
They are very obviously not real. These fairies are extremely one-dimensional. They don't have like faces drawn on.
Right.
If you want to look at these photos, they're kind of cute. I mean, they're really cute.
Yeah.
They're very clearly like, oh, a 9-year-old had a cute idea.
Right.
Anyway, Arthur Conan Doyle was like, this is proof. He publicly supported this for years. He publicly was like, this is proof that fairies are real. And if you don't believe that, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
They were later confirmed to be a hoax. The cousins came out and said that they were paper fairies. One of the cousins, the 9-year-old at the time, swore that of the photos, one of them was real.
I mean, yeah, sure.
So that was in 1917. Arthur Conan Doyle's like, hey, fairies are real. By 1918, he has lost 11 family members.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly. A lot of people died.
Yeah.
This was between the Great War and the Spanish influenza.
The thing is, when we experience a lot of death really quickly, we then experience a lot of spiritualism really quickly. And there's a reason why every girl you know is now a witch.
I was actually looking up, like, why was there this rise in spiritualism? And it's likely traced back to the American Civil War. So many people, every household had someone who died. And so a lot of people turned to spiritualism, and then that went overseas. And it became a trend in America, and then it went over to England.
And then we lost a lot of people in the Great War and the Spanish influenza. Then we have the Second World War. Like, it lasts for a long time because we keep killing people off.
And it's coming back because we keep killing people off. So he lost 11 family members in a very short period of time, which is awful. He also lost his son in 1918. His son was named Kingsley, which is a really funny name to have existed in the early 1900s in my mind.
Yeah, it feels like something a Mormon mom would name her kid now.
It's like the Tiffany paradox or whatever.
The Kingsley paradox.
Obviously, Doyle is upset that his son died.
Most would be.
His wife is too. He and his wife together decide to hire a prominent medium. They search this medium to make sure that there's like no way that he could be a fraud. And then they asked him to contact Kingsley. According to Doyle, this medium spoke in Kingsley's voice and asked Doyle for forgiveness. Because of this experience, Doyle was even more convinced that, like, this is real. A medium couldn't speak in my son's voice if this wasn't real. So he and his wife got really, really into this and, like, promoted it and practiced it and, like, got into it. At this point, his wife discovered, I guess, if you want to say, or decided, I don't know, that she had psychic powers. One of the kind of fun things about this is that her husband was the writer, but her psychic powers were she could communicate with the dead and write.
Automatic writing.
Automatic writing. I forget what it was called.
I think is it not called automatic writing?
Oh, no, it is.
Yeah.
She did automatic writing, which you've probably seen in movies where they, like, tilt their head back and, like, write frantically. She would do, like, 15 to 20 pages at a time.
That's wild.
And just write without looking.
Right.
So, like, even if she wasn't psychic, that's still impressive.
I mean, she wasn't psychic.
They dropped staggering amounts of money on
and there it is.
And spiritualism. And yeah, it was a lot of money that these people spent. As they were doing this, his wife was kind of becoming a big deal. She was getting bigger in the community. People were knowing her. People were hiring her. She was like a high society supernatural person.
Makes sense because she's already one of them.
And automatic writing was relatively new at that time. So, like, to these people. So it was seen as, like, very cool. People were witnessing this and thinking there's no way this could be faked.
Right.
Because they had never seen anything like it. At this point, Doyle, like, kind of the rest of his story focuses on spiritualism. So I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to flip over to you.
Because we're about at the time where they meet too, right?
Yes, they meet in about 1920. His son died in 1918.
Right.
So we're right around that time if you want to jump into Houdini.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Harry Houdini. That was not his name. So his name was Eric Weiss. He was born actually in Budapest, in what was then Austria-Hungary, in 1874. His father was a rabbi, and so they left Budapest because of anti-Semitism. Basically, it wasn't safe for them there. And they first emigrated to Appleton, Wisconsin in 1878.
How do you end up in Appleton, Wisconsin from Budapest?
So I don't know how he was connected, but his father had a job as a rabbi in Appleton. I assume he got sent there. He did lose that job pretty quickly, though. So they moved around the US for a bit and they were pretty frickin' poor. They ended up in New York City in 1887 and that's sort of where they ended up. But they were never comfortable monetarily, which meant that Eric at the time was a scrappy kid and he was always looking for a way to make a buck. And the first time he ever performed was at 9 years old. He had a trapeze act and he billed himself as Eric, Prince of the Air. So, you know, he knew what he was going to do from a young age. He was probably very annoying.
Because kids who are good at what they do are really annoying.
And theater kids who are good at what they do.
Performers.
Oh my God.
God.
He started studying magic as a teenager. So, like, he was into it from the beginning under a magician named Joseph Rinn. And he came up with his stage name because Eric Weiss not a great stage name in the turn of the century. So he came up with his stage name. It was an honorific of a French magician that he really admired named Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin.
Okay.
So he added the I, Houdini. And Harry, he later claimed, was another honorific of another magician that he also appreciated. But that was like a later story. And Harry liked to tell a tale, you know? It was more likely that Harry was just an Americanization of Harry, which was his nickname. Harry Houdini was born, and he was like 19 at this time, and that was it. It stuck. So he started working as a magician, as a close-up magic card trick magician in 1891, and he didn't do great. Like, he was able to make a living for himself as a magician. So, like, do with that what you will. But he was not successful for a very long time. He did a doubles act with his brother for a while, and they kind of jumped around trying to, like, find their thing. They knew it was magic, but, like, escape acts were starting, but were not like a super popular thing. So it wasn't immediately obvious what he should do. So he and his brother kind of dicked around for a while, coming up with acts that were more derivative of other people, never really like hit his stride. He met his wife, Bess, in 1894. She was already a traveling performer. So she joined his act. He kicked his brother out. They became the Houdinis.
That's adorable.
Yeah. He started to mess around with escape acts after this. He had a handcuff act that he could do. And in 1899, he met a manager and performed his handcuff act for him. And the manager, whose name was Martin Beck, basically was like, that's what you need to do. You keep doing that, and I've got you. And then, like, 6 months later, Harry Houdini was an escape artist traveling, like, the top vaudeville stages of America. Because at the turn of the century, that could just happen. Just like,
that's crazy.
You could do a handcuff trick for one guy, and that one guy could be like, yeah, nope, you're done. There you go.
He went viral.
He did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was successful from then on.
Wow.
Like,
good
he
for
was
him.
a successful escape artist from then on.
Wow.
Yeah. Granted, he died when he was 52. So, like, he could have had a flop era that we just didn't see. That was his flop era.
Yeah, he did flop.
Yeah. Really couldn't take that punch. We'll get there.
Yeah.
After his American vaudeville tour, he then goes on a European tour, and he gets to London, and this is the story, the official story. Many memoirists have said this. It probably didn't happen. But according to Harry Houdini, he got to London and had no bookings in London. He wanted to play the Alhambra Theatre, but did not have any bookings there. He went on an interview that his European tour manager set up for him at the Alhambra and tried to do a handcuff act. The manager of the theater was like, yeah, I don't really care about your silly escape act. If you can fool Scotland Yard, then we can talk. So Harry Houdini goes down to Scotland Yard, has them lock him in handcuffs, put him in the jail. He escapes the jail. Ta-da, he gets a 6-month residency at the Alhambra Theater, because, again, that could happen to you at the turn of the century.
Imagine going to the police station and be like, hey, can you guys put me in handcuffs and put me in a cell so I can escape? And they're like, sure.
That is his entire marketing scheme for the rest of his career. Like, you joke, but that is what he does.
Seriously?
Yes. Yeah, this is the origin story for his most famous marketing tactic. He would go as he toured, wherever he was touring around Europe, and then when he got back to the States, around the States, and whatever city his tour was in, he would go to the local sheriff's station or police station or whatever, have them shackle him and put them in their jail and escape from jail. He would come with a reporter, and it was like, that's how he advertised.
What good marketing.
Right?
That's so smart.
Yeah. The Scotland Yard thing, the only thing for sure happened is he did go to Scotland Yard. But this is like one of those stories that no one's like diary tells the same thing. And then like a year later kind of gets closer to that. And like 2 years later, we're like closer to that story. But it is told as like, this is the fact. Who cares? Right? So Harry was pretty successful as a magician at this time. He found giant success and wealth for the first time, though, after suing a Cologne police officer, like a police officer in Cologne, Germany, for libel. So Germany turn of the century, autocratic nation, right? They have an emperor. The German emperor had strict rules about entertainment and like media, what we would call media today, and had like a lot of censorship laws around media. And one of the things was fraud. So magicians were like a relatively new concept, like not like doing like tricks weren't, but like someone that was like touring around the country claiming to do impossible things and making lots of money from it was like a relatively new industry. And in Germany, it was very much seen as like borderline fraud, like borderline, you're just lying to the public and claiming to do things you can't do. And like things like Harry Houdini, like images would, his like illustrations would be him like getting into a milk jug. And then you'd see like an X-ray vision of the milk jug and he would be in there. And then the next one, it would be empty. And that could like imply that he was literally vanishing. And that would be a lie, right? Because he was just performing a trick. He was already on like shaky territory, even performing in Germany. He goes to a police department in Cologne and tries to do his like lock me up and I'll escape thing. And he claims that they just turned him away, said no, and he left. This was not uncommon. This was, you know, police departments didn't want someone to prove that you could break out of their jail, even if they are Harry Houdini, right? So like not everyone is saying yes. They did a lot of the time, but it wasn't uncommon for him to get a rejection. After he left, this police officer went to like the law and accused Houdini of trying to bribe him with a fake lock and pay him 25 kronen, I think is the correct money at the time. That might not be. And Houdini then turned around and sued the police officer for libel and was like, I don't need to bribe anybody. I can do this myself. It went to court. Like it full on, there was a trial and Houdini did have to reveal one of his tricks on how he escapes from the prisons. He basically blew his handcuff trick to win this libel case. He had a steel plate that he would put under his knee, like in the crook of his knee, and he could bang the lock against that and it would break. It was a real lock and he was really locked in and he would really break the lock against his leg every time. So he had to prove that. And then he also went to, I saw it described as a concealed corner. I'm choosing to believe that it was in the judge's chambers, like private chambers. I'm really having a hard time believing that Houdini just like went into a corner with the judge and they like held up a sheet while he escaped from the chains. But usually he escaped from the chains out of view of anybody, and the judge made him do it in front of him to prove that he could do it and that he didn't have to bribe someone into putting a fake
That makes
lock.
sense.
And he did. And so he won the libel case and he won a shitload of money from the libel case and he was able to buy his parents a house.
Aww,
Yeah.
that's so sweet.
After he kind of like blew this handcuff act, he needed to come up with something new because now it was like in the newspapers how he did this. So he came up with one of his more famous water escape acts where he would get into a milk can full of water. And I'm talking like a huge milk can full of water and then it would be sealed and he would escape. It was one of his more famous ones. He escaped from all sorts of shit. Like pretty much anything anyone dared him to do, he was like down to do it. He escaped from nailed packing crates. Sometimes these nailed packing crates were then lowered into water. Riveted boilers, straitjackets, that was a very, very popular one. Multiple barrels of beer. Like brewers from the cities that he would tour in would be like, we'll lock you in one of our barrels of beer if you can escape. And he would. Mailbags. And once the belly of a whale that had washed up or had beached outside of Boston. Yeah. Yeah. He was like shackled and like shoved in there.
Imagine the smell.
I know. He then debuted his probably most famous act, which was the Chinese water torture cell in Berlin in 1912, where he was suspended upside down in water in some sort of glass and steel container. It kind of shifted and changed. But the big thing was that you could actually see him struggling in the water. And that was like a newish concept at the time. I'm pretty sure it had absolutely nothing to do with China. I'm pretty sure that was just to seem a little exotic. I couldn't find any connection. He once made an elephant disappear.
That's fun.
Yep. And he was also very passionate about the history of magic and like the magic community. Like this man, I know we're not supposed to diagnose dead people, but this man was autistic and his special interest was magic. And I'm so happy for him. Because he got to live the dream, you know? He also seemed to have quite the sense of justice because before he got into spiritualism, and we'll get into debunking spiritualism, he would debunk magicians that were claiming to do things that were impossible. Like if they ever started to claim that it wasn't just a well-executed trick, he would be like, yeah, I mean, it is.
And here's how you would do it.
Yeah. And he would, from early in his career, he would explain how he did things, especially after he retired acts. And so there was definitely like friction with him in the magic community at times, but he was a champion of it. Once we get into debunking stage magicians, we get pretty close to spiritualism. So I think we should kind of jump into the friendship because Houdini's real, like his start of experience in spiritualism kind of starts with Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah.
So like we talked about, when people die, we get spiritual. And Harry Houdini lost his mom. He considered himself open to the possibility for a very long time. For most of his life, he really, like, he wanted to be able to believe. He just couldn't delude himself like Arthur Conan Doyle could.
Arthur Conan Doyle said that Houdini told him multiple times, if you can prove it to me, I will believe it.
Yeah. Like he wanted to be proven wrong.
He wanted to talk to his mom again.
Right.
Yeah.
Their friendship started as like a pen pal ship.
Yeah.
Is what I saw.
In about 1920, they started sending letters back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like already starting to debate spiritualism and things like that. Like their letters before they even met are just straight up debating each other.
And Doyle would say like, oh, well, here's an example of this thing happening. And Houdini would respond, this is how this was faked. His special interest is magic. He knows how every trick that's been done can be done at this point.
Yes.
Like not only does he love it, he also has the access to the people that are inventing the ways to make these tricks. Houdini goes to visit Doyle in England.
Well, he's on his European tour at the time. He's touring Europe. He gets to England and he's like, time to meet Doyle in person.
Right. So Doyle gives him all of these like places to go visit around England to like prove that spiritualism is real. And he's like giving Houdini like basically like a list of you should go see all of these things and these will prove to you that spiritualism is real and like you should be into this. And everything Houdini went to, he was like, I can literally see them faking it.
One of the things that Arthur Conan Doyle suggested Houdini do is meet with the medium who he met with, who spoke in Kingsley's voice. So Houdini did. Houdini met with this person. He said that it was disappointing. The medium was very popular in the area at this time, likely because Arthur Conan Doyle kind of built them up. But the medium just used very generic language, and Houdini was disappointed at how unoriginal his tricks were. He used the same, quote unquote, the same techniques as the rest of them.
I find that like, it seems like Houdini was often disappointed in the intellectual capabilities of his peers.
But honestly, the more I learned about Arthur Conan Doyle, I think I would be disappointed in his intellectual capabilities as well.
Yeah.
Especially after reading Sherlock Holmes and then meeting that man.
Right.
That would be perplexing.
Yeah. So it really didn't take long until Houdini pretty much lost faith in spiritualism. He got pretty jaded. And honestly, pretty angry. And then they all went on vacation together.
In 1922, they all went to America. Arthur Conan Doyle was going there specifically to lecture on spiritualism. While he was in America, Houdini was like, hey, you should come to the annual meeting of the Society of American Magicians, which is obviously a thing that Houdini is part of. Now, this story is so fucking weird because it doesn't make sense with any other part of the story.
Yeah.
Arthur Conan Doyle goes in and he shows them all a video of dinosaurs. Now, this is not possible. No one has ever seen a dinosaur. You can't film a dinosaur. Film itself is still very new in 1922. So they take this as proof, like, oh, there are dinosaurs in the world somewhere. Then he says, no, this is from my movie. His book, The Lost World, is getting made into a movie. And they have done stop motion for the first time like ever. And that is how it's possible that these dinosaurs are on film. So Doyle uses this example to be like, so just be careful about what you believe and what you don't.
See, but I think the way I read that, I think the point he was trying to make is that it's like, be careful of what you disbelieve because you don't even know the technology you don't know about. Like, and I think, because like when I talk to other, like now to people who are spiritual, a lot of the time they'll say like, we just can't prove it yet. Like, we just don't have the science for it yet. And I think that was what he was saying.
Yeah.
Was like,
and part of it was he wanted Houdini to be able to explain to him how it was done, and Houdini couldn't.
yeah,
That was really, he wanted Houdini to be like, I know how it was done, and Houdini couldn't.
right.
The other funny part of this is around this time, Arthur Conan Doyle did tell Houdini that he thought Houdini had psychic powers.
Yes. No, until Houdini died, Arthur Conan Doyle believed he was a psychic, not Arthur Conan Doyle was a psychic medium, but Harry Houdini had supernatural powers.
Yeah.
And Harry Houdini was like, I promise you, I don't.
And Arthur Conan Doyle was like,
You do.
You do.
You do.
You can't fool me. I know.
I know. During the Doyles tour of America, the Doyles and the Houdinis do go like on vacation together. They're like hanging out together on vacation. And they are, talking about spiritualism, talking about all of these things, talking about their lost loved ones. And Harry Houdini had lost his mom relatively recently. And Lady Doyle claimed to be in touch with Houdini's mom, which is risky. Bess did let Harry know that Lady Doyle had been pumping her for information all day. And so she was like, basically being like, should we do this? Because like your friend's gonna lie to you.
It's gonna be messy.
Right.
They do the seance. Houdini is like down for the seance.
Right.
Once again, he's like, if you can prove something, I'm so interested. I want to hear this. And the seance went as planned.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Doyle fell into a trance.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing her automatic writing. Mm-hmm. She produced about 15, maybe 16 pages of work in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So I think she was writing real big, too, to be honest.
She must have been.
The produced letter from his mother was extremely generic. It used all of the same well wishes that had been in almost every other seance writing that she had done. It said typical things that mothers would say to their children. It was extremely vague. There were very generic descriptions of the afterlife, like bright light and things like that. And then at the end, a passage on how lucky Houdini was to have a friend like Arthur Conan Doyle.
That's so funny.
Houdini politely thanked them and left. Doyle thought that meant he had won.
Yeah.
Houdini later said it was in English.
His mother did not speak English.
Or write English.
There was also the sign of the cross in the letter, which would be a weird thing for a Jewish lady to do. And it did not mention that the seance was the day after his mom's birthday. That was just not mentioned by his dead mom. Also, Jewish people have a very different idea of the afterlife than Christian people do.
At that time, Houdini didn't tell Arthur Conan Doyle any of this. He was like, I'm just going to keep it to myself. It's fine. We can preserve our friendship and he can believe whatever he wants.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Arthur Conan Doyle thought otherwise.
He's a yapper.
Arthur Conan Doyle sent letters to multiple newspapers claiming that he had finally convinced Houdini of what he was previously skeptical of.
He had said that he had converted Houdini to the religion of spiritualism. That's not like a chill thing to do to a Jewish person.
No, especially not without like talking to them first. Like that is a crazy thing to do.
Yeah.
So obviously Houdini rebutted. He also wrote into the press and said he was just being too polite to admit it to his friend's face. But there were extreme issues like the ones that we mentioned.
He said he was in fact more skeptical than ever after that. So
they both just started to like attack each other in the press pretty mercilessly.
Yeah, no, Harry Houdini was really mean. Like, you think Emily Wilson talking about the Odyssey is mean? Harry Houdini was really mean.
But honestly, I get it.
Yeah.
You fucked with his mom.
Yeah.
Worth noting that when he said that he had successfully converted Houdini to the religion, he was actually in the process of trying to make spiritualism an officially recognized religion of the British Empire. So
Wild.
that did relate. That
Yeah.
was pushing his agenda a little bit more.
Yeah. My favorite part of this feud is that, so Doyle, we talked about he was on tour in the US, and what he toured with was like a talk about spiritualism and like the evidences for spiritualism. And at one point, Houdini was so mad that he started his own tour debunking Doyle's tour. Like, he followed Doyle around the country and just went, nah.
Here's how it was done.
Yeah,
Here's why he's wrong.
So funny. That's some shit I would do.
Around that time, Houdini also started a crusade to ban any type of spiritualism that's not a trick. So, like fortune telling, something that's just generic, seances, things like that.
He testified in Congress to try to get fortune telling made illegal. And to be frank, unpopular opinion, I fucking agree. I think it should be illegal to claim to be a medium because you're fucking lying. You're bilking people of money at their worst time.
He argued that the nation's common sense was deteriorating because of what he called mental intoxication from spiritualism.
I don't think he would be surprised where we ended up 100 years after his death. Like, genuinely. I genuinely think Harry Houdini would come back today and be like, I fucking told you.
One other thing Houdini did that I love is he would send his assistants to public seances, and they would just write about what happened and bring the information back to him. And then he would write an expose based off of what was given to him on how they did it.
He would go to seances in disguise with a police officer and a reporter, and then during the seance be like, so you're doing this, and this is why this isn't working. Houdini was actually a member. After this, he joined the Scientific American Committee that would award a cash to anyone that they couldn't debunk. They never paid that money. They were never able to not debunk someone. And there are still funds that do the same thing and that have never paid out that are around today. I mean, he like publicly ridiculed Arthur Conan Doyle for years, but their friendship really collapsed when Houdini released a Magician Amongst the Spirits in May of 1924 that, I mean, like, just like point by point refuted pretty much every claim Arthur Conan Doyle had ever made about spiritualism. Like, it was a hit job, and they were never friends again. They didn't have a lot of time, though, to come back together because Houdini was killed at 52. One of the things that he would do, you know, like I said, he would do pretty much anything anyone dared him to do, was he could take a punch, like, no problem. He was able to, like, arrange his abs in such a way where, like, he could absorb punches really easily. And it was really, really common for fans to come up and be like, can I punch you in the stomach? And he would be like, yeah, sure. This happened after a show one day. However, his appendix was already inflamed and he had told the guy no, and he punched him anyway. So he was not prepped, and he punched Houdini in the appendix and burst his appendix. And it was the 1920s. So Houdini died.
There are rumors that this was from the spiritualism religion. People were like actively trying to get rid of Houdini. This hasn't really been proven. And it's probably not likely because no one knew his appendix was inflamed.
He was an unpleasant man.
Yeah.
It's not unreasonable to think he just pissed this guy off. Or the guy was just a douchebag.
The guy might have been a douchebag. Yeah, it sounds like both could be true.
And Harry he was throwing himself face first into death at every...
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that he died in his 50s.
What year did he die?
Before he died, Houdini and his wife had come up with a plan that if he were to die, they would have a code word, and she could go to as many seances as she'd like for as many, you know, Houdini will bring Houdini back seances because he knew that that would be a thing, and she could go to as many, and if she heard this code word, then she could know that it was real and that he was actually back and that whatever, that spiritualism was true. So he dies young, and still at the height of spiritualism around the world, obviously seances are going to be happening to try to bring Harry Houdini back. None were ever proven. There was one time where she did admit, like, I don't know how they did this. They got the code word. But she was later able to go back and figure out how they found the code word, and like they had basically cracked the code. Like basically Houdini and Bess's code was not good enough. She came back out and was like, okay, no, you just did a trick. It was just another trick. She did hold seances for 10 years after he died on his birthday every year, and he never came back. And so after 10 years, she was like, we're good, right? Like, we're good. We don't have to, it's the 30s now. Let's just like be hungry, I guess.
So even though Arthur Conan Doyle was older,
Mm-hmm.
he lived 4 years past Houdini's death. He did not die until 1930. He was 71 when he died, and he died naturally of a heart attack.
Oh, after Houdini died, Arthur Conan Doyle sent his, condolences to Bess. Like, they were friends. And so he did say, and he said, like, I'll be excited to meet Houdini, like, from the other side. Basically, like, he's not really dead. I'll be speaking to him soon,
What
sort
a
of
shitty thing to say to the widow.
Yeah. But Bess, like, he did mean it well.
Yeah.
So she, sent regards back and sent Arthur Conan Doyle some artwork of Doyle's fathers that Houdini had bought at auction and was planning on giving to him. And so Bess sent it to Doyle as like my husband wanted you to have this sort of thing. And Arthur Conan Doyle was like, thank you for your present from the beyond, Harry Houdini. I very much appreciate it. And Bess was like, no, he bought it before he died. I'm just sending it to you now because he's dead. And he was like, I very much appreciate the present,
From the
Mr.
beyond.
Harry Houdini's ghost.
The last thing I want to focus on about Arthur Conan Doyle, after his death, they did put up a statue across the street from his birthplace
Okay.
of Sherlock Holmes. And so Arthur Conan Doyle, just if the afterlife is real, he's there, but he's fucking pissed.
So funny. Oh, that was a fun one. I liked that.
That was really fun. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Yes. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and rate this. Hopefully you're on Apple Podcasts because that is what we want ratings on the most.
And if you're not, just go. Just go and do it. You can do it.
But whatever you're listening on, please go ahead and give us 5 stars. Let us know in the comments what you want to hear more of.
We have a Patreon.
We do. Our Patreon's really fun. We produce. Our Patreon's really fun. What's the word? Thank you. Our Patreon's really fun. We release not at least. Oh my God. Our Patreon's really fun. We release 1 video every month. We have some behind the scenes content. We've done a giveaway. All kinds of fun stuff happening over there.
And this podcast will get better the more money we make over there. So.
That is true. All right. Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.